5 or so that are dragged in there.
Good evening, APS families. I believe we are live right now. I am Megan Gauthier, and tonight is our informational session for elementary parents on our many important details that we've all been anxiously waiting for and how we are going to be sending our kids back to school this year during the COVID-19 pandemic. Before I get started, I do want to just acknowledge that I have two very important people in the room with me supporting me during this time. First off, I have Susan Wooden, and I will just turn the computer screen. Susan Wooden is our interim superintendent, and she is here to support and make sure that we are all on track for what we've committed to in our preparedness and response plan. Lee Fitzpatrick, he is, we lovingly call him the voice of APS. He is our parent involvement coordinator and early college director. He will be our moderator for this evening. So I am going to present from a slideshow presentation and give you all of the information that you've been really needing to know in order to make an informed choice for your elementary students and how you would like to return to school. At the end of the slide presentation, I'm going to open it up to questions for you, and we'll work to provide those answers. Lee will either provide them by typing, or I will answer them verbally. In addition, this session will be recorded and placed on our website for any of our families who do not have a Facebook account or could not attend this Facebook Live session. That will be posted mid-morning tomorrow on our website. So moving forward, I want to share my screen. And this is how I do that. This is my first Facebook Live that I have done. So, Lee, are you on with me?
Yes.
Can you see my screen?
We're a little bit behind, so it lags just a little bit.
Okay.
Yes.
You can see the slideshow. Okay, so really what I wanted to start out by saying is we are so excited to get back to school and to see your kids. And we know that there's some very important decisions you have to make as families. And we just want to, every district administrator, school principal, and teacher wants to thank you, and any staff member in Alpena Public Schools wants to thank you for your patience as we're going through this time of uncertainty and guidance is changing by the minute. So what we have today for you is a solid plan for how we're starting school. Granted, there are still uncertainties of how the COVID-19 pandemic will progress over time, but right now what we're providing you is our nuts and bolts of what you need to provide to make an informed decision for returning to school. So I'm going to start talking about I'm going to talk about our three options and everything you need to know about each option in order to make your decision. So our first option, which is obviously what we want for all of our elementary students, is to be in school all day, every day. So our first option is face-to-face instruction. So during face-to-face instruction, some things that you need to know. We've adjusted the start date for students to September 8th, 2020. So this is Tuesday after Labor Day weekend. We did that in order to assure a smooth start to the school year, to provide training for staff and all of our health and safety protocols, and make sure we're ready to provide a safe start for your kids. In addition to that change, we also had to change the length of day for elementary students by starting an hour later. So if you have kids at Besser, Lincoln, and Ella White, they will be reporting at 9:33. If you have kids at Hinks, Sanborn, or Wilson, they will be reporting at 9:54. The reason for this change is so we can clean and disinfect buses between our secondary and elementary bus routes as a requirement of the preparedness and response plan for returning to school. If you choose face-to-face instruction and within the first couple weeks you decide that this is not a good fit for your family at this time, you have a 2-week opt-out period. We ask that you give us that time frame to make your decision if you do feel like this is not a good fit, in order for us to get you registered and going on your second choice. Whatever choice you make, we're asking that you make a semester-long commitment in order to assure continuity of learning for your child. There's no way we can guarantee alignment between face-to-face instruction and online instruction, and so if you bounce back and forth because of whatever reason you choose to do that, we're risking some gaps in learning for your child and making it ultimately harder for them to catch up on grade level instruction. So what will it look like with this modified schedule? We are not eliminating any content area. Rather, we are focusing on the most important standards and skills for instruction. And we are also putting that equally as important as the social and emotional well-being of your students coming in. We recognize that many kids have had a long period of time off of school, and it might be a little nerve-wracking to return to school, and we want to make sure we're there to support them in every way we can. So that's as equal as a priority as academics. In addition, music, art, and PE will still be provided. And while we're in phase 5, the requirements of wearing masks during PE will be based on whether or not we can be outside or if we can socially distance well enough to wear masks. So overview of safety measures. I'm just going to give you the nuts and bolts here. We have this spelled out very specifically in our preparedness and response plan that I have linked in this presentation. So an overview of what we're doing to keep your students safe and to keep our staff safe and to try to prevent transmission of COVID-19. Strict cohorting of classrooms will be implemented to prevent intermixing of students. So your student will remain with their classroom family for the almost the entirety of the day. Breakfast and lunch will be eaten in classrooms. The mask requirement will be mask when you move. So if you're up and moving, you have your mask on. If you're sitting down, you can take your mask off. This applies to staff and students. APS will provide disposable masks, and personal cloth masks will be allowed as long as they're laundered every day. So you have a choice between your own provided masks or disposable masks provided by the district. In an effort to reduce the amount of exposure, parents and volunteers are not allowed in the building until further notice. For the first week of school, our parents of JK, K, and 1 students will be able to walk their child to their classroom. This is very important to help ease that transition from home to school. In addition to the safety measures I indicated, we will be implementing hygiene practices, including hand washing on a regular scheduled basis and hand sanitizing practices throughout the building, with hand sanitizer pumps located in key areas so we can implement those practices. All staff will be responsible for sanitizing high-touch areas in their space throughout the day. And every building will be cleaned and disinfected by custodial staff every day. Buses will be cleaned and disinfected in between routes. And that's just the overview, the high-level overview of the safety measures that we're going to be putting into place. The full details for all requirements that we're expected to meet can be found in that link of the COVID-19 Preparedness and Response Plan. Many of the questions during the parent informational sessions in the community forum were centered around what happens if my child just becomes sick with a typical illness, or what happens if my child tests positive for COVID-19? And that is something that we're relying on our medical professionals for guidance through our district health department system in the state. We received a document that's linked in this slide called COVID-19 Return to School Toolkit. This was created by Grand Traverse County and endorsed by state groups as well as our district health department number 4. This full guidance is what we will be following, training our staff on, and then supporting our parents as events occur where students become sick and we need to respond. So by implementing the guidance in this toolkit, there will be various scenarios where staff, students, their family members, and possible classrooms and strict cohorting or entire buildings at the secondary level will be required to quarantine. There are many scenarios where this could be the result that are in this toolkit, but for tonight what I'm going to provide you is that high-level overview of how we will respond, test, and screen when students are within our care during face-to-face instruction. In addition, staff will be provided training on these scenarios, and we will support you with guidance as in the event your child becomes sick or tests positive for COVID-19. For staff and adults, APS will follow the guidance provided in the COVID-19 Return to School Toolkit. So basically, for staff and adults working in the school with any of the following symptoms, they are excluded from work if they show one of the 3 symptoms listed on this slide, or if they show 2 of the 3 symptoms listed on this slide. They should not return until it has been at least 10 days since symptoms first appeared and at least 24 hours with no fever, without fever-reducing medication, and symptoms have improved. We are not requiring sick employees to provide a COVID-19 test result to return to work. We're asking that they follow this guidance and monitor their health and return to work healthy. For students, which you're most concerned about because these are your children, we are following the guidance that is in this toolkit as well. So if a student has any of the following symptoms while they're with us at school, which is temperature of 100.4, sore throat, new uncontrolled cough that causes difficulty breathing, gastrointestinal issues, or new onset of severe headache, we're going to ask that they be excluded from school. So the typical scenario of your child feels unwell, they tell their teacher, they go to the office, and then we look for these signs. What the district health department has guided us in is that the primary symptom that children exhibit when they have COVID-19 are the gastrointestinal issues that are listed on this slide. So your child says they're sick, and we go through this series to see if they are showing any following symptoms, and then we will call you and ask you to pick up your child. While they're waiting, they will be in an area where they can be isolated from others, and they'll be supervised by an adult. So once your child shows these symptoms, and there's a series of questions that guide the next steps. So has your child had, can you answer yes or no to any of these questions? So basically we're looking for, have they had any close contact or potential exposure risk in the past 14 days? So had they had close contact with a person confirmed with COVID-19, had close contact with the person under quarantine for possible exposure, and have had travel history. If you answer no to any of these questions, then we're going to follow the guidance that we've always followed, which is outlined in the Managing Communicable Diseases in Schools document. So the fever of, no fever for at least 24 hours, improvement of a sore throat without medication to improve that, improvement in cough and shortness of breath, no gastrointestinal issues for 24 hours, and then improvement in headaches. So we're asking that you monitor your child's health, and return to school once you can check the items off of this list. If we ask those questions and you can answer yes to those, then there will be some decisions that you need to make. You can go to your healthcare provider, or you can go directly to request a COVID-19 test. We are not going to require testing result as a part of the return to school for your child. So in this scenario where you refer to your healthcare provider or get a COVID-19 test, and your child is diagnosed with COVID-19 or there's no other diagnosis available, we're required to have home isolation. So the student is required to stay home for at least 10 days since symptoms first appeared, and at least 24 hours with no fever, without fever-reducing medication, and overall symptoms have improved. This will help prevent transmission of COVID-19 and will assure that your child's safe to return to school. The questions that might be in your mind about what does this mean for other kids in the classroom, what does this mean for family members, those are the scenarios that are detailed in that toolkit that we will be providing guidance on as we return to school. If you answer those questions and you say yes to only the first question, which is, yes, my child has had contact with a person confirmed with COVID-19, they need to finish their recommended quarantine. If you answer yes to the two bulleted questions that are outlined in green, then you can continue with the typical guidance that we always have followed with traditional sicknesses like 24-hour fever-free, 24-hour gastrointestinal-free. So this is the overall big picture guidance that we'll be following, with many specific scenarios that are going to have to guide decision making. And this is where we are providing instruction and training for our staff members, and we'll be supporting you through the process if your child becomes sick, or if a child in another building becomes sick. So that's the big picture of face-to-face instruction, our health and safety protocols, what our time of day is going to look like. So what do I need to do if I want this option for my kids? So in order for us to get organized with our bus routes, we need you to complete a survey. Only if you do not want your student to ride the bus, or if you have alternate pickup drop-off locations other than your home address. So by doing that, I'm going to click on the link, and there is a nice, easy to find, I can X out of this, easy to find button called Transportation Request. When I click on that, it takes me to a form. The form is very short. You answer these questions and press submit, and then we know that you're indicating your bus needs for face-to-face instruction. In addition to that survey, the only other thing that you would do is attend the open house schedule. So on September 2nd, all elementary buildings will be hosting their open houses, but in a staggered way in order to maintain the 25% capacity rule according to the executive order. So you'll see we've divided it by letters of the alphabet, and if you are a family that has the last name between A through H, I through Q, R through Z, you have two options, one during the day and one during the evening. It is going to be a half hour that you'll be in the building, and we're asking that you wear masks when you visit your child's classroom. If you have a blended family, we're asking that you pick your youngest student's last name to determine what time frame. And you don't attend both, you just attend one or the other. We really want to make sure that your child has the opportunity to be in the school, see where their classroom is, and meet their teacher. So that is the summary of our face-to-face instruction and the health and safety protocols we're putting into place to make that happen. Option number 2 is 100% virtual APS online. So why would I choose 100% virtual APS online during this time? So typically before the pandemic hit, there was a variety of reasons elementary families chose APS online, but it was not a highly chosen option. So during this time, I would guide you to think I'm choosing APS online as a temporary option for my family during the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm choosing this with the intentions that I want my child to return to face-to-face instruction when we've gotten through this pandemic and into phase 6. So that's a good guide for how to make your decision. Our start date is the same as face-to-face, which is September 8th. We have a 2-week opt-out period, so if you register, you can change your mind if you decide another option fits best. Once we go past that 2-week opt-out period, we're asking that you make a semester-long commitment. So shared commitments as we move forward with APS online for our elementary students. Our commitment as a district is to purchase courses from a third-party vendor for your child. We will also provide a local mentor to check in with you 1 time per week via Google Meet or a phone call, depending on what you choose as the best option. This can be to talk to your child or talk to you as a parent. We also commit to coordinate special education services through the IEP process, and this would typically look like some face-to-face or virtual time a couple times per week. Which is, it follows another structure called home-based or homebound that we typically offer our kids who are prevented from coming to school. Your parent commitment, and when you take on this option, is that you are supporting your child's learning at home by helping with assignments provided by the third-party vendor. So you're helping your child meet the goals of progressing through the online courses. With this option, you will be provided 2 curriculum choices. And these curriculum choices are based on what we've found to be a good fit for elementary students. The first choice is a curriculum called Bookshark. And in this curriculum, this is kind of the elevator speech for this. You will learn more about this at the parent orientation, but I'm just trying to give you a gist of how to guide your decision. So in Bookshark, it relies heavily on the parent to provide instruction. It consists of 80% offline work that is guided by the parent and supported by curriculum resources provided by the company. It consists of about 20% online work, and the timeline for completion is set by your online mentor in order to help your students stay on track. So if I was considering APS online and I wanted Bookshark, that meant I want as a parent more hands-on experience in being the teacher for my child, using these curriculum resources as a guide. The other vendor is Lincoln Learning, and Lincoln Learning is 100% online instruction provided by the vendor. It's a teacher that is not an APS teacher, but it's a teacher that's guiding you through your course. So the parent's role in this is to support your child with the work that is guided by the teacher of the course. So you're not having to think about how to teach it, you're having to help your child go through the work. And the timeline for completion would be set by your local online mentor in order to help your student stay on track. So what do I need to do to choose this option? So the first step is to complete the enrollment form by going to our website, which I'll take you there again. And if I X out of this alert, and see down here where it says Learn Online, click Learn Online, and then there's this button here that says Enroll in APS Online. And so this will take you to the student application form. And this is a digital survey that is going to gather all the information we need to enroll your child. And by doing this, you're letting us know that you are choosing the 100% online option. In addition to that, we'll ask that you attend the parent orientation on Wednesday, August 26th from 5:30 to 7 at the AHS auditorium. The goals of this parent orientation is for you to register for your curriculum choice. So I gave you the elevator speech tonight on the curriculum choices, and you'll learn more about the details of each curriculum at this orientation. But the gist is Bookshark is more parent involvement in the teaching of the content, and Lincoln Learning is where the parent supports the student going through the content that the online teacher provides. We're going to ask that you complete your annual paperwork during this time and check out a Chromebook if needed. In addition, we're going to ask you how many courses you would like your child to start with. So we're emphasizing that math and English language arts are a must to start with. These are our key subject areas that inform and help success in other subject areas, and we want to make sure that kids are working on their very important math and English skills. So our recommendation is math and English language arts are a must. But if your child has the work ethic to take any courses on top of that, or if you want the option to start, then at this time you can say what additional courses you would like. Please note that at the start of school, your student will be enrolled in 6 courses. However, we'll work with you on how many courses your child can do at one time, because we recognize that the learning environment at home is very different than the structured face-to-face environment. And the rule of thumb is 1 hour per course per day. And we want to make sure that what you're taking on as far as the courses you choose is doable for both you and your child. Our last option is option 3, the family partnership. And why would I choose the family partnership? So when you're thinking about your child's education and the direction you want to head, it's great that you have these options in front of you. And each one, it really puts into question your role that you want to play in your child's education. And so with the family partnership, the role that you would want to play is you would have a genuine interest in being your child's primary teacher as a more long-term option. So these are for our families who are very interested in homeschooling. So our start date for this program is the same, September 8, 2020. We still have a 2-week opt-out period for this. And if you choose this, it's a semester-long commitment. So what could this look like for my child? So what the family partnership offers is optional learning experiences offered at Sunset School on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And these are non-essential courses that often are focused on the arts, or I know that there's a karate course, but they're optional learning experiences because families decide that they want more ownership of teaching the 4 essential subject areas of math, English language arts, science, and social studies. So sometimes you can decide to choose courses from APS to help you with that. And other times families decide to teach those 4 essential subject areas without an APS online course. So how do I choose this option? For this option, it really is needs to be a conversation with the director, who is Jen Myers. So please reach out to her via email for more information, and the email is linked right on this screen. So 3 options for you to consider as we are heading back to school. We can't wait to see your child or work with your child with whatever option you choose. We're asking that you choose by August 24th, which is next Monday. And if you choose either option, in this slideshow, we've given you those next steps of how you indicate your choice. So please meet the deadline by August 24th so we know how to support you best. And then just a reminder, a recording of this session will be posted on our website on mid-morning tomorrow, which is August 19th. So please share with your friends who are not able to make this that there's some very important information that can guide next steps in your decision. Okay, so that is the end of my slide presentation. And I'm going to open it up to questions. So Lee, I know that you've been typing. So I don't know if there's any questions you want to call out right now.
So we have some frequent ones. We had folks asking about the start times, if the start times will remain the same at least through the semester, the late start time. I think probably we should address that all employers in our community will be faced with this, and hopefully will work along with us as a community to make it work.
Yes, yes. So that is a very good point. We're having to juggle childcare, and as a parent, I'm having to juggle that as well. The changes that we make will be if we enter into phase 6. When we enter into phase 6, I hope it's soon. But for consistency purposes, you can plan on the semester for the start date, knowing that we can't predict the movement of the pandemic, whether we regress or increase to phase 6.
Will the buses pick up kids that live closer to buildings that would normally be walkers due to the late start time?
That all depends on the bus routes. And my answer, that's a good question. And my answer to that is the reason why we're adjusting the start date is because of the demand of cleaning and disinfecting. If your child's in walking distance, that's not going to change our bus routes. It really is, we're needing every single minute to make sure we clean and disinfect.
Does the 2 weeks begins not from the day that they choose, but from the first day of school, correct?
Correct. So the question was, does the 2 weeks start from the day that they choose or the first day that's of school? So first day of school, you have some time to live it before you make a change.
Do we have an idea on class sizes?
We do not have an idea on class sizes at this point because we don't have an idea of how many students have gone 100% online. We have an initial number of around 58 that are spread across all 6 elementaries, but we don't know the full impact until we hit that deadline. I did see one parent can attend open house. That's very sad for families that have both parents involved, and I completely agree. I'm one of those families who have both parents involved, and we're going to have to flip a coin to see who can go. And that's unfortunately the environment that we're in.
For APS Online, how many students does a teacher have, and how much face time do they get with that instructor?
So with APS Online, remember your teacher is through the third-party vendor. Our local support is called an online mentor. So they're not actually teaching the content of the online course. They're providing support. Any questions you might have, I'm getting stuck on this concept. And right now we're saying 1 time per week in the form of a phone call or a Google Meet. So I wanted to be very clear in the option 2, which is APS Online, in that when you choose that, you're choosing that an adult is going to support your child through the third-party vendor courses that we will register your child in. And then the online mentor that is provided by an APS teacher is like your liaison between brick and mortar school and online school. What questions are popping up that you need help with? And so that's the role of the APS local online mentor. I see the question is, what is the third-party vendor? So the 2 programs that we're recommending and we're providing choices are, and one is called Bookshark, and the other is called Lincoln Learning. On our APS online website, you'll see the course selection guide. It's just a list, but you can search Bookshark and Lincoln Learning in the meantime if that's something of interest to you.
Megan question, how, for APS Online, how do they know the level to start my child? We know that they're behind after spring, and will they adjust them if they are at a level that's too hard or too easy?
So we would start them in their grade level unless there was a specific need according to an IEP that prevented the child from accessing grade level content. If you get into a scenario where the course is too hard, then we would work to find the right fit. Bookshark is on here as typically known as a homeschool curriculum. There is not, we're using that curriculum as an APS online option, and we're piloting that with the company as a way to prevent the amount of time kids need to be online if the parents or adults who are providing care need to, would like to be more hands-on in providing instruction. From the feedback we've gotten from parents is some are okay with having more learning online, and others want more offline, so to speak, opportunities, paper pencil opportunities, working through a workbook. They can be blended, but in Bookshark it's set up that way for you to do that, and it's a part of our APS online curriculum. Well, starting at 9:33, stay in place or change later. So if I was a betting person, I would say it would stay in place throughout the semester. The only way that we are going to be able to lighten our bus cleaning and disinfecting is if we move to phase 6. If we move to phase 6, around that time we'll have to reconvene in order to make the changes that make sense at that time. I would bet that when you're arranging your childcare, you can plan on that until the end of the first semester, which is around mid-January.
Will there be standardized testing, and will the online students do standardized testing?
Right now there's a bill in the House that is proposing to waive standardized testing that has not been acted upon by the Senate. So right now standardized testing is in place. If we will work with you, we ask that your child does participate in the standardized testing if they're online, and we'll work with you to schedule that accordingly.
Online students will also
I see a question called, can I teach math on my own? So yes, and you would fit in the family partnership category because you are looking at teaching some of the content on your own. And so what we would do is you would contact Jen Myers to kind of talk about what you're interested in doing, and you would look at registering for the courses of the essential subjects and potentially electives, and then you would be omitting the math piece. And that is for any subject area. If you are comfortable teaching one subject area but not others, we can work with you on that. How many children will be in each class cohort? So that depends on class sizes, which we cannot provide a solid number on because we are waiting to see the amount of students who are going to APS online. Right now, at current numbers, it ranges from low 20s to high 20s. And that's the purpose behind cohorting. So cohorting is about preventing intermixing of kids, which reduces the transmission of the virus. So by cohorting and keeping them with their classroom group, we know that we can prevent a good amount of exposure to other children.
Will attendance rules apply for students that get sick with COVID?
No. And that is a bill that was passed by the Senate this weekend and then by the House on Monday, and it waived the attendance requirements. And so if you are quarantined due to COVID, it's not going to count against attendance. Will there be standardized testing this fall to assess where our children are academically? We will be using our benchmark testing, which is our local test that's called NWEA. We'll be using that as our guide, and standardized testing would occur in the spring. If we choose in person, does the bus survey we took last week, so that was a bit confusing. So the bus survey that needs to be completed is the one I included in this presentation, which is on APS online, on our alpinaschools.com website, and it's right at the top left corner, bus transportation survey. Will staff like speech therapists have clear masks or take it off as a child needs to see their mouth? Absolutely. So this is something that we are preparing for in a variety of settings. So we've purchased plexiglass screeners to be put between a speech provider and a student, or a special ed teacher and a student. So then the teacher can wear a shield instead of a mask, and that will help protect. In addition, we've identified any students who have hearing impairments, and we are purchasing clear masks for those teachers so our students who have hearing impairments can see their teachers' mouths. So there was a question about if we end up homeschooling all year.
About passing, how will they kids pass the next grade?
We typically, work with the parent upon enrolling back into Alpena Public Schools, and we go by age and the last grade that they attended with, and then we'll do some initial assessments if we have more questions. Typically, we use our local assessments to do that, and most of the time they are promoted to the grade level that they would have been in if they stayed in brick and mortar setting the entire time.
There's no more questions about school lunches. Touch on school lunches. Do they need to bring them?
Sure. So school lunches and breakfast will be provided. We have several schools that are, all of our kids are provided free breakfast and lunch. We'll still be providing those. The only difference is that they're going to be eating them in the classroom to prevent intermixing of cohorts in the cafeteria. So the question around hot or cold lunches is a great question, and that's our food service team is meeting tomorrow. With delivery and eating in the classroom, we have to be careful around the type of food we serve, knowing that we want as much variety as possible. For any of you who've received food while we were in emergency closure, we struggled with variety, and that's something that we are committed to making sure we provide our kids.
Does the Book Shark version that APS students will receive differ from the Book Shark version for homeschool students?
That is going to be answered at the parent orientation. I will admit that I know the broad brush of that curriculum and the role of the parent within that curriculum. Jen Myers is a good person to ask for that. And then we will be providing more information on the Book Shark curriculum. If it's something that you're interested in, I would go and do some research on the website. It is the homeschool curriculum that they are kind of piloting with our APS online program after working with the director of our family partnership. Yes, Jen's email is myersj@alpinaschools.com. There was a question, if you can't make the parent orientation, is there another way? Absolutely. So the goal is, because 100% online learning for elementary is new to our district. And so we want to make sure that we have a streamlined process for you to register, make your choices, and get set up to go. And then whomever can attend but has enrolled using that form on our website, we will be contacting you to register you and get you what you need. The goal is to have as streamlined a process as possible, knowing that not everybody's going to be able to make the event.
Is there supply lists for K-5 students?
Not yet. You will be getting that from your child's teacher. So we will have some specific requests to prevent sharing of materials, but the district also will be providing the materials in order for teachers to have what they need and students not having to share. So that will come when we when you attend the open house, or when you contact your child's teacher.
Will there be outdoor recess for students?
Yes, oh, yes, for sure. And honestly, as we adjust to the mask requirement, we're encouraging teachers to take their classrooms outside, to provide instruction outside. We're encouraging PE to be taken in place outside. The difference is that they'll be going outside with their cohort, so with their classroom. There's another question about, is it possible to just do, to teach one course on my own and do APS online? Yes, you can determine what courses you'd like to register in if you're not happy with some of the subject areas. Lincoln Learning is not live instruction, and it is not engaging with other kids. And that's why it's a really tough decision for our elementary parents, because we're providing that experience for our kids at home, utilizing the curriculum as a guide for where to go next.
Question about, if a student goes out sick long-term with COVID, will they still get homework?
Yes, yep. If a student is out sick long-term, it'll just be like any other time. We'll provide work to help them keep up, and your student can do it as they are able and as they're feeling well. In the example of, if a student in a classroom tests positive for COVID-19, we are likely going to have to move forward with a classroom quarantine. In that case, remote instruction would occur, and if you have online access, you'd be able to access the online pieces, which would likely consist of a virtual meeting, some virtual lessons. And if you don't have access to online, then what we will provide is paper pencil options for you to complete while you're at home.
Are there aides on the buses to help with mask requirements?
At this point, no. And so we are, the goal of starting school later is so we can work through all of the requirements placed upon us in order to keep your child safe. And those are the conversations we need to have with our bus drivers moving forward as they figure out how to implement the safety requirements that they need to on their buses. So when is the open house? I missed that. So this slide presentation will be shared with you. All that information is in there. Online learning, you can just choose 2 or 3 subjects for the full school year, and the child still passes to the next grade level. So in online learning, we would enroll your child in 6 courses, and the goal would be for your child to complete those 6 courses in a semester in order to be working at a level that is equivalent to face-to-face. And so it's just how many courses you do at one time. So let's say you decide, I'm going to do 2 courses. And then when I get 50% done with the first course, my ELA course, I'm going to add another course on. And the goal is to finish all 6 in that semester in order to have an equivalent learning experience as a brick and mortar.
Question was, can you blend in person and Bookshare?
Nope. So our options are either face-to-face fully, APS online, or the family partnership. It's very difficult to do a blend of online and face-to-face in an elementary setting because of the scheduling constraints when we are trying to schedule our specials of music, art, PE. So sometimes math will be in the morning on a Monday, and then it'll be in the afternoon on a Thursday. And to schedule that on a large scale is very difficult on the on making a schedule that makes sense for kids. So why couldn't the older children start an hour earlier that don't need daycare so that the little children can start at their normal time? And Ryan, I want all of our kids to be starting at our typical time so we can have a full day with them. And the main factor behind this decision is that in order to have our bus be safe for the next group of kids to come on, we need to clean and disinfect, which involves wiping down every high-touch surface and then spraying the entire bus with a disinfectant and then allowing that disinfectant to dry. And so it's not about, at this point, it's about the safety on the bus in order to help our bus riders, help prevent transmission of COVID for our bus riders. They are going Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, with a delayed start time of an hour. I have two kids in different classes. Can a parent be with each child to meet their teacher if you come in at different times? So we're trying to limit the number of adults in the building. So in that scenario, if mom and your younger child could come in the morning, and then dad and your older child could come in the afternoon. It's tough. It's completely tough because I'm in the same scenario as you are, but it's one parent, and then we're asking that one parent to take their multiple children to their classrooms, and we're in the building for a half hour. Your child presents COVID, cold symptoms in class. What is your procedure for sending home and disinfecting? I've seen some scary scenarios online. There's all sorts of scary scenarios out there. So if your child shows symptoms that are related to COVID, we will call you and say, come pick up your child. We'll put them in an area where they can be isolated from others with adult supervision. And then we need to rely on you for the next steps. If you answer the yes to the questions of if you've had direct contact with somebody who's tested positive for COVID, if you've had direct contact with somebody who has been quarantined because exposure to COVID, or if you've traveled, if you've answered yes to any of those questions, we're going to ask that you go to your doctor, or go get recommend that you go get a COVID test. From there, then we determine what our disinfecting rule is. If you call and say, my child tested positive for COVID, then that would likely result in a classroom quarantine where we're required to disinfect the space and then also prevent each other from the classroom cohort from interacting with each other.
Can families in the partnership program take standardized tests?
Usually that's not the case, but if you are enrolled as an APS student through the family partnership, whether that's shared time or full time, and you elect to take the standardized test, we would be happy to have you provide that opportunity for you. So I want to make sure that this says, okay, so they are providing free breakfasts and lunches. not all schools have free breakfast and free lunch. So if you're Lincoln or Sanborn, you have all children get free lunch. Other than that, you either qualify for free or reduced lunch or pay the full price. And then it's just like typical. You can send your child with a lunch that you provide, or have your child eat lunch at school or breakfast. We are not asking that families send breakfast to school. Breakfast is provided for those who purchase at the school, and families aren't sending breakfast to school with their kids. When will we know who our student's teacher is? So that exciting information. So that will be provided when you go to open house. So I'm going to just quickly share my screen and show you the open house schedule again. So open house schedule, again, this will be communicated by your child's principal. This is our first kind of, question and answer session. Tomorrow this will be recorded. Your principals will reach out to you via their typical format, and you'll get this concrete time in front of you so you don't have to, write it down right now. But it's September 2nd, all buildings, staggered by alphabet. We're asking that one parent attend with their child to reduce the number of people in the building at one point.
Do you want to address what happens if we have to transition back into a lower phase?
If we transition into phase 4, school will look the same. What we've committed to at APS is to make sure that I'm going to stop screen sharing, sorry, to make sure that we're not throwing everybody in an upheaval by changing our routines based on the phases. And so we've started with stricter requirements that are aligned with phase 4, so we can easily transition to phase 4 without creating that anxiety that we all experienced in the spring. If we regress to phases 1 through 3, that means that we can no longer attend school face-to-face and we're required to go remote. In that instance, our teachers have been preparing all summer for how to ease that transition in instruction for those of us who can access the internet. For those of us who can access the internet, we'll be distributing Chromebooks the day of, so you won't have to go pick it up because we are assigning a Chromebook to every student. For those of you who have cell service but no access to the internet, we're researching viable hotspot options to provide you so you can access the live online instruction. And for those of you who do not have good cell service at home and don't have access to the internet, we'll be providing paper pencil options that the teachers will be working on as we progress throughout the school year. I have twins. Please contact your child's principal to make sure they're in the same class so they can be in the same cohort. I do not know the starting date for Pied Piper School. Do you know the starting date, Lee?
I don't. I just put up a phone number for them.
Okay, perfect.
I'm going to just address that preschools and Pied Piper are run by AMA ESD, and the number is 354-3101.
Great. And actually, they AMA, do they answer preschool questions right now, or does NEMSCA?
I think they'll refer them to NEMSCA.
Perfect. So AMA is your spot for that. Will APS online students be able to take the NWA testing? That's a little trickier, but you know what? If that's something that you would like to make happen, we can make it happen. Just contact your building principal because it's an online assessment. Again, the question, can I do Bookshark and face-to-face? It's either face-to-face or APS online, and Bookshark is an option with APS online. We can't blend between the two for scheduling purposes.
probably just to remind people that we'll post the slideshow and I'll specifically post the open house times once we're done.
Yeah. So, in regards to the impact that the delayed start for elementary is having on all of the parents who have to working parents who have to figure out childcare, we know that this is not a great option for anybody, and so one thing that we're looking into that is going to take some time to work out is whether or not we can provide before school care that is supervised by our instructional assistants. That would be available only if you can provide transportation, and it would start at the typical start of the school day. That is an idea that we have because we know the impact that this is having on all of us, and we want to make sure that we provide as many supports as possible as we're wading through this the new face of school during this pandemic. So in honor of everybody's time, I am going to wrap this up. This was an hour session. I appreciate all of your questions and your concerns and the fact that you're on this Facebook Live to determine what is the best choice for your family and for your students. And we can't wait to work with you and your child starting soon. So please hit that August 24th deadline and share this presentation with any of your friends who weren't able to make it so you can spread the word.
6 o'clock on it.
Thank you. Secondary parents for students in grades 6 through 12, we have a Facebook Live to give you all the nitty-gritty on the options for your secondary students, and that will be at 5:30 and will last for an hour. Thank you and have a good night. And we hope to see you in the fall and face-to-face instruction.